Hi, it's Mobile Max West Hollywood, and it's February 2nd, Monday, 2026, and this is my opinion. I want to personally apologize to President Trump. I didn't vote for you this last election, and I didn't vote for you in 2016, and thought you were a pretty bad guy for quite a while before that. And I want to apologize for that. All these terrible disclosures about how everything's rigged and the Democratic Party being a racist and discriminatory, kleptocratic administration. Didn't know about that. The media, what you call fake news, the legacy media kept it quiet. All they focused on was diminishing President Trump, smearing President Trump's name and character, having stories about how he opened up the Taj Mahal in Atlantic City, and he borrowed a lot of money, and he hired a bunch of contractors. They never got... Anyway, you get the idea. Just a plethora of anti-Trump stories. Boy, the media and the radical liberal left really hated President Trump. But this is my rationale for why I didn't believe and vote for President Trump before just recently. It's because I'm a baby boomer. And we grew up, and the television had 9 channels, and they showed us the space, the race to the moon, and also we trusted the main legacy news, the CBS, the NBC, the ABC, the CNN. We grew up trusting them because they were the only arbiters of the news. So we grew up, and they showed us many wonderful things, some bad things, the Vietnam War, but we trusted them, and we trusted their anchors like Walter Cronkite. Who said that the Vietnam War was unwinnable? Walter Cronkite. Who cried for President Kennedy when he got assassinated? Walter Cronkite. You had Dan Rather, Tom Brokaw, all these news anchors who we all trusted, or at least I trusted, and they smeared President Trump's name. So when they had all these news reports and documentaries on Trump this, Trump that, I didn't realize it was all partisan politics, trying to destroy President Trump and install one of their lackeys. Anyway, they really had me fooled. And right now, nothing's changed. It's still going on, this incredible brainwashing and bullshit and false narratives by the legacy media. Let me give you an example. Iran. You know what happened in Iran just recently. They had millions of protesters coming out on the streets demanding a new regime take over Iran. Why? Because the Islamics, the radical Islamics who run Iran and take all the money for themselves are idiots. They totally destroyed the environment so they could stuff huge amounts of money in their pockets. They dammed up all the rivers, and they had huge agricultural output so they could feed a bunch of people and make themselves a superpower. Well, that all failed. And now the poor Iranian public can't even drink a glass of water. There's no more water left. These idiots fucked up the environment so bad in order to gain power and money that now Iran is going through terrible drought, and a lot of little farmers have been destroyed. Anyway, it's all going to hell in a handbasket in Iran because of massive incompetence, mismanagement, all devised to stay in power and gain money and more power. Anyway, the Iranian populace came out to the streets and to protest and scream and yell and demand a new regime in Iran. Who covered it? Who covered it? You saw very little coverage by the legacy fake news media. They wanted to talk about Minnesota protests and Jeffrey Epstein, all that brainwashing bullshit. Now I know what it is. These legacy media operate like dictatorships, and they're trying to spin their own narrative and deliver only the news they deem worthy. Like lately, you would think that only white people commit terrible acts. The legacy news only covers white people who kill their wives or steal money. They don't cover that's terrible a fraud taking place in Minnesota by the Somalian population. They totally cut that out. You don't hear about that at all from the legacy media. It's all brainwashing. You won't see any bad actors in the black community. The legacy media will not show you. They totally censor the news and direct it in a certain pattern to protect themselves and protect the gangster Democrats and protect the black mafia. Haven't seen any lately in the last few weeks. No stories about black people doing anything bad. They have lots of white people. Oh boy, you got a white guy who runs into a church and murders his wife. That's head news. That's the headline. Anyway, they're totally these legacy news media, what President Trump calls fake news, is even worse than that. It's evil news, because they manipulate their news in order to support partisan and criminal proprietary assets. So the news is still at it, and they act just like Iran does, because that's what Iran did. They want their own narrative, and they have their own television and movies, and that's what they give to their public. The news and the culture is totally controlled by the radical Islamists in Iran. And when they have trouble, they cut the internet off. They started having all these millions of people protesting. Boy, they didn't waste any time. No internet for anybody. We don't want any of this to get out and see that the Iranians slaughtered 20 to 40,000 of their own people, machine gunned them down because they were protesting on the streets, demanding a new regime takeover. But our own news, legacy news, do the same thing. You only see the news fit for white people, only white people doing terrible things, only white people stealing. No news, no information. They black out the news on the black people, on the black mafia. You don't see anything bad about blacks at all. South Central LA is a black hole. No information comes out of South LA. Only if they wander out of there, then a police chase might be in the public eye, something like that. But no information comes out of South Central LA. No information comes out of all the cities that the blacks are controlling. Detroit, Atlanta, Chicago, Portland. Get a little news from Portland, but it's totally controlled and censored and redacted by the legacy news. They're no longer fake news, they're evil news, trying to brainwash everybody. That's all I gotta say.